Pregame.com.
Welcome back to Pregame.tv. It's time for the big dance. We're ready.
It's time.
I'm back in a suit and tie.
Nice.
You guys still?
Representing Pregame.com.
That's the cop-out way.
Well, hey, no, RJ Bell, if you didn't get the memo, if you wear anything that says Pregame.com doing the videos, extra 3% in your check. Which for you?
Times zero is how much?
Yeah, exactly.
It's St. Patrick's Day holiday this week, not April Fool's.
Hey.
Okay.
It's always April Fool's on these videos, that's for sure.
All right.
Even in March.
He's Ken Thomson. He's Bryan Leonard. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Guys, it's the big dance. This is what we do all college basketball season to get to this week. The next 4 days, we're taping on Wednesday, Thursday through Sunday. If you've never been in Vegas during this week, this is one of the things you got to put on your bucket list because it is absolute chaos from start to finish. That Thursday and Friday, when they start the games at 9 something in the morning, and then you don't finish till the West Coast game is done. When I used to first come out, just get off topic for 1 second, I used to come out with my buddies from
Psycho.
It was like my buddy would drink from the day the morning started at 9 a.m.
Got to do it.
Go all day. Finally at 8 o'clock, and he'd be drinking Heinekens all day long, and he says, I got to stop. He switched over to Bloody Marys then.
Yeah.
That was stopping for him.
I just wanted to point out he was drinking heavily because he had to spend time with Marco.
Yeah. I'm not going to go there.
Okay. All right.
Get myself in enough trouble.
Brian's free pick.
Is it?
We're going to take a look at, this is Mercer and Duke we're going to break down. And I don't know if I'm going to let him talk after the last comment, but.
Fine with me.
Might be fine with the listeners, too. The Mercer and Duke, these first-round games when you get the, top seeds versus the bottom seeds, you're going to be laying some big numbers. So I think you're going to go to the total in this one instead of the game. Duke, they got to the ACC championship game, on Sunday. This is a team that, to me, Duke, and I love Coach K, but there's just something missing about this team this year to me. It's just, they just don't have that. He always uses that it. I just don't think they have it this year.
I think there's a lot missing. They got no presence in the paint. It's all Jabari Parker. If Jabari Parker can carry him like he almost did against Virginia and shoot lights out, they're going to stay in games and they've got a chance to beat the weaker sisters of the poor type teams. But when you start playing the big boys that are physical, like Virginia, and Virginia's a very physical team, like Florida, Michigan State, those teams will beat up Duke. And if Duke's not shooting, or Parker's not shooting 50, 60% in the game, they will lose. This is not a strong team in the paint.
Great point. And one of the other teams that you didn't mention, they battled both games, were epic games. Syracuse, which is the same type of team that's going to play a physical brand of basketball on you and make you work for everything, where Duke wants to come down, take that perimeter shot. And if Duke gets hot shooting threes, then it's going to be lights out. And they're playing a team. Will Mercer be able to take that three-point shot away from Duke?
Well, that's the thing here. And you talked about the it factor. The it factor is the defense and the style of play. I mean, Duke has normally not been one of the, they haven't really recruited the type of players that go up and down the court. This is a very athletic team that they have this year compared to years past. So the Duke offense is very good. It's the defense that, anytime you play a faster pace, you're going to give up a lot more points. The trick you want to look for when you're playing big underdogs, and a lot of guys are out there playing their brackets, is when you have a team that's the big underdog, they have to have certain things that they have to be able to do. They have to press. Louisville, great job of pressing, steals, but you also have to be able to hit the outside shots. And here we've got a team that 4 other 5 starters are averaging 39% from behind the arc. So anytime you have a team that's able to shoot very well from behind the arc, you have a chance to win. And if you're a big underdog in this tournament, like they are, a 13-point underdog, that's how you have to be able to go out and win these games. Now, they could pull off the upset, or they can get blown out by 30. That's the chances you take when you shoot a lot of three-pointers.
Well, here's the other thing, too. We take last night's game, Florida Gulf Coast against Florida State. ACC, Florida State, we saw them hang with Duke. All of a sudden, Florida Gulf Coast, they lose in the final to Mercer on their home court. So Mercer, a good team. Mercer was very fortunate at home to get past South Carolina Upstate, who I thought was the best team down the stretch, a team that had beaten Mercer by 19 in the earlier meeting and then loses in double overtime at Mercer. So they got past that. They beat Florida Gulf Coast on the road, showed some moxie there. I think this Mercer team's underrated. And again, Duke, if Parker's not taking over the game, they're going to keep you around. Hood's got to shoot it well as well. And then, they've got a couple offensive weapons, like you said, but the defense is going to keep other teams around.
And you've seen the difference before we get you to make it official. The difference that we've seen over the years, probably 5 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, a matchup with this type of seeding automatically would have been a 20-point spread. And now we're seeing, and we're not calling Mercer a mid-major, but you're seeing these smaller schools come in and now getting more respect from the lines maker. And again, I go back to the smaller schools. I think one of the reasons is the smaller schools keep the students, athletes there for longer periods of time. The big programs, it's one and done. It's just a turnstile coming through, and it's hard to get that continuity. You always got great talent, but we've seen it so many times. Look in the NBA when there's blockbuster trades, how long it takes for that team to gel with all those players. And if you're doing that every year and every year, as opposed to a team like we saw Butler make the run a few years ago, back-to-back years, and they had the same players. They're played together for 2, 3, 4 years. It's tough to beat those type of teams.
I'll say one more thing. They're 5-3 straight up, Duke, in their last 8. One of those games, a 1-point win over Clemson, which they were fortunate to get that, but 1-6-1 against the number in those 8 games. I will not lay double digits with a team that's 1-6-1 against the spread.
All right, we talked about it enough. Let's make it official. This is Bryan's free pick.
All right, I'm looking for an up-and-down game here. I think that's how Mercer's got to play in this contest. They're a good three-point shooting team, as I talked about. 4 of the 5 guys shooting 39% or better from downtown. And Duke is obviously going to go out and run. They've got the athletes that are going to try to pick up the pace. I think that's how Mercer's got to stay in this game, shoot the three-pointers. Take a look at what Mercer's done on the season. When you look at their games against their tournament caliber teams, they're allowing 82 points per game, as opposed to on the season, they're allowing 67.5 points per game. So you got to take a look at the teams that they have played, and now the teams when they step up in talent, and that's what they're going to be doing here against Duke. Same thing when you take a look at Duke. On the season, Duke has played 8 games against non-big conference type of teams from their own conference, the SEC, the bigger conferences. In football, they call it the power conferences. But in those games, when they did not play teams up to their caliber, they're averaging 91 points a game. It's a team who has the athletes. They're going to go out and run the court. Mercer being a team, big underdog, they shoot the threes. They're going to need to shoot the threes. Even when they fall behind, they're going to continue to shoot the threes. Now, Duke has defended the threes pretty well this year, but this is the only chance, in my opinion, that Mercer has a chance to make this a game, is to hit the outside shots. Marco talked about the line being 13. Maybe it was 20 a few years ago. Keep in mind, this is one of those games, the first of the 2 back-to-back. They play on Thursday, then they play on Saturday. I think when teams play the next two days down the road, as opposed to the 4 or 5 for the next week, they could play their players a little bit longer when you have that second game. So the next round, you're going to see more starters in. So we're going to get in this one. I think if Duke has a big lead, we'll see more bench players. But this is Duke. The bench players on Duke are as good as any other bench players in the country. These are All-American type of players, guys who could have gone anywhere and played. So I think we're going to see an up-and-down game here. That's their style of play. Mercer's going to stick with it. We're going to go over the total. I think it's pretty cheap.
All right, great stuff from Bryan. As usual, he says take over the total. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a look at another Friday NCAA tournament game. We're going to go Kansas State and Kentucky. That'll be my free pick up next, pregame.tv.